Hey everyone, I thought I'd shoot a quick update video as to progress on the Hill Valley subdivision here. I haven't made a lot of visible progress in the last month or so since the last video, but there has been some progress. I'll start with this. This is a electronic DCC circuit breaker from DCC Concepts. I have one of these that I had in place already on the SB5 booster from NCE that's under the layout here that provides power. About 5 weeks after I got that SB5 booster, it failed. So I sent it back to NCE for repair, and they repaired it, no questions asked. But when they sent it back to me, they included a letter that strongly recommended that I have some sort of short circuit and overload protection on the output of the booster. So I bought a DCC circuit breaker. And that covered the entire layout. So if something shorted on the layout, say a metal wheel on a frog or anything like that, it would cut power to the entire layout until until the short was cleared. And that presents a set of problems or frustrations more if you're having an operating session and something shorts on one section of the layout, everybody goes dead until you get that short cleared. So I've separated the layout into two power districts now. So I have one of these over here under the Lars Farm area, which cuts this section into a separate power district. So if something shorts here, power cuts here until the short is cleared, but the rest of the layout stays powered and vice versa. I do have plans to create a third power district with this one that will be here with Hill Valley and the peninsula and the mountains. I just have to figure out where I can gap the rails to isolate it into a separate electrical block without interfering with the current detection for my signaling system. So I have to figure that out. The next thing I've done is I've created new switch lists for operating sessions here. I was using JMRI Operations Pro to generate the switch lists and then print those to a PDF. They're designed to be printed on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but that's kind of cumbersome when you're operating. So I would shrink the PDF down and print it on a 4 by 6 card, but that made the font so small that it was difficult to read. And so I've made up these switch lists. These are just Word documents, just in tables. And really all I did is I just transferred all the information from the cards I had onto these. It's an 11 or 12 point font. It's much easier to read. And in addition, I've put any specific instructions at the bottom of each card and button functions for the locomotive, common button functions, like sounding a grade crossing or mute or your headlight and your bell and things like that. Next, I have added these town signs to all of the areas of the layout where you're going to be doing any switching during an operating session, just to help operators know, okay, I'm going to Cornet, where is that, as an example, and here it is. These are just printed on my inkjet on vinyl decal paper and then stuck onto foam core, and then I cut them out with an X-Acto and then just double-sided taped them to the fascia of the layout. Same thing here. I've made these track diagrams for all the switching locations that show where all the industries are and the tracks and that sort of thing, so that if, as an example, if their switch list says to set out hoppers to Medusa Cement Track 1, they know where that is. So I have those in multiple locations on the railroad as well. I've also installed two more of these UTP panels from NCE. This is where you plug your controller in when you're operating a train. I had one down here, but depending on what you're doing, if you're standing at this end of the layout and you're switching and you're throwing turnouts and things like that, the cord gets stretched a little tight. And so it's just a handy thing to have another one here. And I also added one over here at the Bryant's Gap area. Now, there's not a lot of switching that happens here, but there are a couple of trains that switch over on the other side of the mountain here, and it's easy to use this siding as a runaround track if you need to get around to your train to get to the other end of it. So it's handy to have one of these here. In addition, you can plug in here and then stand here at the end of the peninsula and see your train on both sides of the mountain if you feel the need to do that. These are pretty easy to install. These are the newer ones that daisy chain together with Cat5 cable. Just standard Ethernet cable. which you can pick up. You might even be able to buy it at Walmart these days, but Radio Shack or online, Amazon, you can buy pre-built Ethernet cables. But I've worked in IT all of my life, and I can practically build an Ethernet cable with my eyes closed. So it was very easy for me to build those cables and daisy chain these together. And finally, I recently purchased one of Broadway Limited's new Big Boy 4884 locomotives. And in testing it around the layout, I discovered that this track going into this tunnel and coming out of the tunnel on the other side, being on a curve, the Big Boy's cab would swing a little wide to the outside and would brush the side of the tunnel opening here on the portal. So I 3D modeled a new tunnel portal that's overall the same width, but has a wider opening so that the Big Boy can clear it. So I 3D modeled this a couple of days ago, threw it on the 3D printer. It took about 3 hours for them to print. Pulled them off yesterday morning, and they're just temporarily in place right now. They're not permanently in place. I need to pull them out and paint them and weather them and that sort of thing. But now the Big Boy can clear the tunnel portal. Well, I think that's about it for updates this month. I appreciate everyone watching. If there's anything you'd like more information on or would like to see me do a video on, please leave a comment. If you have any questions, please leave a comment with your question as well. If you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate you subscribing so that you'll get notified of future videos. And again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time.